Hey everyone, it's Shelly. Welcome back to my channel, and as you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be going into me leaving my corporate job. So I've got some notes here and I'm actually going to be inserting some slides to help guide the conversation. Clearly I'm missing the corporate environment, but I just thought it would help me stay on track because this is a very broad topic in my opinion as far as, my experience and why I'm choosing to do it and all of that. But I was just feeling like I needed some structure in this video because I could just talk about this on tangents like all day long. If you follow me over on Instagram, you probably already knew that this had happened because I did have a post go live on my last day of work kind of talking a little bit about that. And I'm also looking forward to sharing with you a little bit more as I go on this journey, and I'm so happy that you're here to come along with me. So I'm going to be going over 4 main topics in this video. I'm going to start off with a little bit of my background and kind of my interests and things like that, then go into becoming a content creator, when I realized this is something that I wanted to do and why I was interested in doing it, some of the steps that I went through with making this change, and my current state, which is basically what I am doing right now. Before I get started, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. I did get a lot of questions from also some other professionals as well who are looking to make maybe a similar kind of change and you're wondering how someone else went through it. That is really the whole reason why I'm making this video, and I do want to say that it does take a lot of preparation and planning. I'm not suggesting that anyone go and quit their job all of a sudden, and I will also say that I am not really a risk taker. This is something very I went rogue basically with making this decision, so this is all just a very interesting process to me. I hope to have more updates, advice, and suggestions as I continue along on this journey, but for now, this is all very new to me. All right, so we're gonna get started with my background. So I've actually worked for 20 years in some kind of corporate capacity. This could be anything from a part-time job that I started working at when I was in high school through college, all the way up until a couple of weeks ago when I left my full-time job. So I have been in the workforce as a legitimate employee for 20 years, and for almost 15 of those years, I have been working in the field of human resources. I feel like whenever I say that, I do get a lot of questions about interview tips, how do I get a job, and all that kind of stuff. And I do plan on making some HR related videos in the future in case anyone is interested in going to HR and want to know a little bit more about what it's about. But I do feel like there are a lot of great articles out there about interviewing tips and whatnot, so check those out. I likely won't be sharing those here. So ever since I got my first part-time job about 20 years ago, I've pretty much never had a break in a job. I didn't do that 6 months or taking a year off to travel or anything like that. I was 17, I got a part-time job, and I've been working ever since. The only kind of break I've had in between jobs is I quit and my last day was on a Friday, and then I started a new job on Monday. And that's kind of the only breaks I have taken aside from taking vacation time or paid time off that the company that I was working for was giving me. So some of the values that were instilled in me were longevity with working with one particular organization, company, wherever it might be, for basically your entire career. This made me really feel like I had to pick one thing and stick with it, which is probably why I was in the field of HR for 15 years. And I really felt like I needed to make a decision, choose, and just stay with it. And this was actually very difficult for me when I was in college because I did not have a clue what I wanted to major in. I think I changed my major at least 3 or 4 times before I landed on getting a bachelor's in communication. I threw in a business minor in there because I'd already taken all of these business classes, and I eventually got a master's degree as well. I ended up working in HR and getting a master's degree in it because I felt like it was just generally practical. It was knowledge that I could use as an employee as well as if I wanted to become a manager or leader at some point in the future. And that's basically the reason why I gravitated towards it. Myself, lots of other people I know who are in HR, you just kind of fall into it almost on accident. There are very few people I know that chose HR very early on, knew that they were going to be doing something like that in high school or college. And so while I was working in college, I was presented with opportunities that allow me to experience some bits and pieces in HR, and I thought maybe I could do this, maybe I should learn a little bit more about it. And I ended up working in that field for 15 years. There has always been a part of me that knew that I wanted to do something great, knew that I wanted to achieve great things and have success, whatever success happens to mean to me at the particular point in time. And so when I started my career, I looked at the typical paths that most people would take in any career where you're just kind of moving directly up that ladder. And that's what I basically thought my life would be career-wise. So let's get into when I decided I wanted to create content and why I was interested in going down this route. I think this really just boils down to what I just generally want in a career. Some things that are really important to me are growth and development long term. I am someone who likes to build things from the ground up, start things from scratch, processes, whatever it might be. I like to get into the analytics of things that I find particularly interesting so that it can help me learn a little bit more about what's going on. I like interacting with others, and I also like sharing information. When I first started to create content, it was a very interesting throwback for me. So back in the day, and I am an elder millennial in case you're wondering, back when I was in high school, something that was really popular was creating websites. We did not have social media back at that time, and this was kind of our version of that. I used to code HTML, do some photo editing and Photoshop, and like try to create things that way. Those are some things that I did back then that I think is very directly related to social media these days, only less coding and stuff like that. And I think there are a lot of great like easy solutions that are available now that did not exist back then. So essentially, I would like to think of myself as a pioneer in the social media world before it even existed. So when I started to create content, edit videos, and build my website, it was very nostalgic. I feel like it took me back to when I would stay up until like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when I had school the next day, or on Fridays and Saturdays, and just like work on this like online thing and just work on building stuff online. That was something that was super interesting to me, like tinkering around to try to see what else I could do with my website. I feel like a lot of the examples I would mention don't exist today. I haven't seen it anyways, but options were limited back then, and we were just trying to have fun. But with all of these great feelings and flashback to times when I enjoyed doing something and could spend hours and hours doing it, it was honestly just a clear sign to me that this is something that I needed to put more time into, that I was happy to pick up as a hobby, which, you know, at that time when I first started, I wasn't really expecting anything to happen. I was just like, let me just do this. This is fun. This is just like something fun I used to do a long time ago. I'm just gonna see where it goes. And if it turns into something, then great. I really had very little expectations or like hopes of turning it into something else. But as I continued to work on things, and I was watching YouTube in like the very early days of YouTube as well, kind of seeing the evolution of what people were doing back then to today, I think is also very different. And seeing that people could actually create small businesses via their online presence on a variety of different channels, which we know now as social media. I just really felt connected to it, like hooked on learning more, and it just seemed very clear to me that this is something that I should be doing. I also feel like I should mention as well, because I know that people have different reasons from leaving their career or making a career change or anything like that. Like, I feel like HR for me is just, it's fine. I could continue doing HR still today if I wanted to, but I also see that opportunity of like, what if I never try this social media thing and I never get to see where it's gonna go? And just the potential of me making new connections, learning new things, new strategies, editing techniques that I could have access to going down this route. I already know what the HR path could look like for me, other things that I would need to know, and you know, all that kind of stuff. I know what to expect. And I'm really just going into this in the terms of, I just want to try it out and see where it goes, and not have that thought in my mind like, what if, or why didn't I, or anything like that. Honestly, if none of this works out, I'll just go back and work in HR again. And I really think I would be just fine doing that. To me, there's just so much more like untapped potential that I'm seeing with the path that I'm trying to head down. And it's just looking a little bit more favorable to me right now. I might change my mind in a few months, so check back with me later. So now let's talk about the steps that I took to make this change and if it was gradual. So as a rough estimate, I think about 2 years ago, as we were just starting to get into the pandemic, is when I was kind of in this weird mood with work, trying to look for my next move, my next growth with my career. And that's really when the thoughts started to like seep through on like the potential of growing something online on social media. And also me feeling like I have something to share with others, something that could be valuable. At the end of the day, the whole reason why I created my channel is because I liked sharing information with people about things that I purchased, so I could give anyone out there who was watching my video a little bit more insight into whatever it was before they went ahead and made the purchase. I started to feel like I could take that to another level and talk about other topics as well. For example, this video and some of the other videos that I have planned. I don't remember where I was going with this, but I think you get the idea. So really the reason why this was a gradual change for me, and the thing that I think was the most challenging to get over, was the idea of stability. So if you've been following me for a while now, you probably have observed, I'm married, but I do not have children. So that's definitely something that I feel like is just one less thing to worry about, but I am your average everyday person. I still have bills, I have a mortgage, you know, all of those things. And so really, and I remember saying this years ago, that I could never work in a job that had like paid commission, because you never know what's really coming in. It could fluctuate. You could have like low months and high months and all that kind of stuff. And that just made me really nervous. Obviously, I have somewhat gotten over that at this point because I did make a jump, but financial stability was definitely a value that was ingrained with me through my whole life. However, I think with planning, or depending on like if you have a partner, who that is, if they can help support you through that transition, or other family members, for example, I think, you know, coming to terms with that is important if you are looking to make a similar type of move that I'm making, but also knowing that you have the ability to learn something new, grow within a role, figure it out, whatever the case might be. I think that overrode the thoughts about and questions about stability that I had for myself. I know that I can learn things, I can grow in a role. That's what I've done in my 15-year career. I can be put in different situations. I'm resourceful, I can figure it out. And knowing that taking a step back for a shorter period of time for then a larger like gain later on, to me, you know, it's like cost benefit analysis. Not to be super corporate and businessy again, but that's where I'm like, okay, you know, like I can take a step back to then make future growth. Like I'm okay with doing that right now. I'm okay with eating like cup noodle for like a few months. That's not what I'm doing. But for an example, I mean like real examples, I'm okay with not shopping as much, getting rid of some stuff on Mercari or Poshmark. You know, I'm okay with doing some of that stuff right now while I'm working towards that growth. And also, I think a big confirmation for me was that I have been in jobs where when I got hired and I got into that job, the person who was doing it before was already gone and had been gone for a few months. So I didn't get any training. I had to learn it all on my own, figure it out, you know, talk to people and just take in information, tweak some things here and there. And knowing that I've gone through those types of situations, like run a no budget program that did well, I think, you know, those were just other things that helped to confirm that I'm able to do something like this as well. I also talked with a lot of small business owners. So that could be someone that I was introduced to from a friend, like a colleague that I didn't really know, but I thought like, hey, I'm just gonna put myself out there and talk to this person about this topic anyway, but also talking to some friends that I have who also own small businesses and getting like a variety of different responses and advice about what they did or what they wouldn't do. I think that really helped me because I was able to then pick and choose and really think about how I wanted to do this. So initially I only heard like two routes. It was like quit your job and go all in. And the other one was like keep your day job and then just work on, you know, whatever else you're doing as a side hustle. And, you know, those two things are very different and contrasting. And I was doing one of them, keeping my full-time day job and working on YouTube and stuff as a side hustle. And I felt like that wasn't really working as well for me. Like I wasn't seeing the growth that I knew could potentially be there. And so something had to change. And really what happened then was I started to see more people who went down this middle route of working some kind of part-time job while working on their side hustle. So it's almost like you have like two side hustles going on, but one is a little bit more stable, and that kind of helped them get through the pressures and the stress and the nervousness and the worries so that they could, you know that they have some income coming in and then really focus a lot more and put more in, have more time to work on their business that they're building. And that was news to me. Like I was so glad that I heard of this other middle of the road option. I think it does, you know, it could, just depending on, you know, what's going on, what your industry in, XYZ. I think it, you know, in some cases could like slow your growth down a little bit. But if you're like me and you do also need that financial stability and medical insurance and all that kind of stuff, because what have I been doing for 15 years? Working in human resources, like enrolling people in like medical plans and stuff like that. Like knowing that I have that, but then I still have the ability to like work on my business, like that meet in the middle that's where I felt good about it and that I could actually do that. And so my advice to you would be figure out what works best for you. Maybe you are that person who can just go all in on something, or maybe you are that person who is able to grow something while you were working full time. If I had a best case scenario, that's what I would have done. That would have been the option that I would have liked to keep. But at the end of the day, like I mentioned, for me personally, I thought about the gains that I would have if I cut down full-time hours and had more time to focus on building a business and what that might mean for me. I just see a lot of potential there, and I feel like I've been just people-pleasing this whole time, and I need to do something for myself. So this is me just like cutting the cord halfway so that I can at least experience a little bit more of that. But also I think it takes a little bit of the financial pressures to jump right into content creating and make like a large revenue right away. I know some people go viral overnight, and that just has not been my experience so far. But I'm happy to play the long game if that's gonna get me to the life that I wanna live. Okay, and now we're at our last section, which is what am I doing right now? So I think I've already said this, but I do just want to reiterate that I kind of am feeling like the corporate environment is just not for me right now. I think that this was going to happen to me at some point, and it just happens to be 2022. Maybe one day I'll go back, and I know I do have that option. But right now, I just feel like there's lots more exploring that I need to do. I think I kind of hinted on this, but I basically got a part-time job to kind of help me balance this whole thing out. Right now, I am not working. I'm taking my first break between jobs over a couple of weeks, so I have been able to plan, strategize, and all that kind of stuff. Videos that I wanted to post, social media stuff, so I think it's been really great. A good reflection point for me was last week, my first week off, like not doing anything. I thought that I would be able to jump right in, and that is typically something that I would do. Like corporate Shelly would have been like, no breaks. But I did go for a massage appointment, and after that it kind of dawned on me, thankfully this was earlier on in the week, if I went home and started to work on all these things like I was planning to do that day, that would basically defeat the purpose of getting a massage and being relaxed, and then I would just go back to being stressed all over again. Essentially, I was asking for burnout. So last week, I just kind of chilled. I watched a lot of Netflix. I went to lunch with friends, walked my dog a lot more, read a lot. It's funny because one of my friends predicted that during these couple of weeks off, I'd probably read like 20 books. I've only got through 2 so far, not adding a 0 on, that's a little bit too much, but that's basically what I did on my first week off. This second week now, I feel a lot more rested and like ready to go. I am a very hard worker and a recovering workaholic, so last week and having time off was great, and I definitely needed it. It's funny because I've always heard about how like taking a break, resting your brain, and all that kind of stuff would help with, you know, bringing more ideas and working harder or being more focused in your work and stuff once you get back from that break. And I think because I never did it, I didn't think it was a real thing, but after last week and now going to this week, I can confirm I now am a believer, and I do think it's a real thing. As far as my thoughts on the corporate environment, I am thankful for having that experience. I feel like I have learned a lot, as you know, some of the things that I've mentioned. I feel like I have learned a lot. I've mentioned some of my experiences here with like building stuff from scratch and learning things on my own, but I do kind of feel like I have a better understanding of like the inner workings of a business, like budgeting, marketing, what the whole thing, you know, looks like when it comes together. I have read a lot of articles, heard some podcasts, you know, just heard some people in general talking about the corporate experience and how they didn't like it and they feel like it's too much of a rat race, and I can see how people might feel like that about it. And if they're feeling really negative about it, I feel like I can empathize, but everybody has their own perspectives. Those are not necessarily my takeaways from the experience. My takeaways are that my previous experiences helped me, like they presented me with challenges that allowed me to grow. They have made me a lot more resourceful than I probably would have been had I not had those experiences. And I learned how to work with other groups of people, manage committees, and lead, working in that environment as well. I think sometimes what the corporate environment can present to you is that sometimes there are deadlines or regulations or budget restrictions that you just have to overcome, and you have to figure out how to do it. And for me, I would say that experience is invaluable, but this is the whole reason why I'm trying to do something on my own. I do feel like I have a very entrepreneurial mindset, and I need to lean into that a little bit more so I can see what happens. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so excited for you to come along with me on this journey. It's definitely an exciting step that took a lot of thought and getting over like scared feelings about instability, but I'm excited to be here and not get started, but continue on, because I think that this journey has a ton of amazing opportunities. I also want to thank everyone for being so supportive over on Instagram. Many of you were so excited and encouraging, and I feel like I wasn't expecting that either. I feel like I was waiting for someone to tell me this is a bad idea, and nobody did. So thank you so much for that. If you want to continue to follow me on my journey, please consider subscribing to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful in any kind of way. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Or if it makes sense, I may make another video. All right, everyone, take care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.